Big news in from the World Health Organization. They've declared that sex addiction is a mental health disorder. Join the conversation now is psychotherapist and author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, Think, Act, and Be Happy. Dr. Mike Dow joins us. So, Dr. Dow, we've talked a lot about addictions on the show. What does this new declaration mean?
Well, I hope that the declaration from the World Health Organization means that more people will actually be able to seek treatment, to train their brains if they are experiencing consequences in their life. Because this diagnosis means that you have overactive impulses, you can't stop thinking about sex, you don't know how to put the brakes on them, and they are resulting in more and more consequences in your life.
Mike, we've been talking about this on the show together for years.
Yes, we have.
What took him so long? Where is the gray zone about this condition? I mean, there is no doubt. Where's the doubt that this is not a true addiction?
I agree with you. And you know, I've treated people and I see the struggle. I see the way that they want to change and they can't. And I see the way that they are no different than somebody that I've treated who is facing a drug or an alcohol addiction. It ruins their lives. They want to get better. They can't. It's literally tearing apart their whole life.
Well, I think, Dr. Dow, one thing that's hard about this is that this is sort of a process addiction, right? So if you're addicted to drugs or alcohol, part of your treatment may be to just avoid those things entirely.
Right. It's very black or white.
But this is something that many people would still like to incorporate some element of sex in their lives. So how do you treat this if someone's identified with this?
That's a great question. So when I'm working with somebody who is a sex addict or a shopping addict, for example, you still have to shop, right? You still have to probably go to the grocery store if you're a shopping addict, right? You have to find what I call a gray area. So you have to find a healthier way to have relationships, sex in your life, or if you're a shopping addict, to be able to go to the grocery store without spending your entire paycheck, including your rent, online, right? So it's a slower process, and it's not as black or white as, okay, I'm a heroin addict, so I will therefore not drink or do drugs for the rest of my life. We still use 12-step programs. We still use cognitive behavioral therapy. I incorporate a lot of mindfulness meditation and other clinically proven treatments that can help people. So you're right, it is more of a process addiction of behavior.
And I think for these people, they need to retrain their brain because they have sex. What's the first thing after sex they start thinking about? More sex. You know who you are out there.
Yeah.
That's a big part of where you come in to say, okay, you've had sex and that's good and that's healthy and you want to have a good sex life, but you have to train your mind to divert from that and then go back to it when it's appropriate.
And that's where CBT comes in, cognitive behavioral therapy. We have the power to train our brains. This part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, it's the most human part of the brain. It acts as the brakes. So when these other parts of the brain are pumping out dopamine and we see something we like, somebody who looks sexy and somebody who's maybe not the person that we're in a relationship with, and the animal part of our brain is saying, I want that. The prefrontal cortex can say, let's put the brakes on that because I'm married, right? So CBT, mindfulness meditation, these skills can help to train your brain to make your brakes stronger so we can behave a little bit more like humans and a little bit less like animals.
But is it true, one last question, is it not true that for a lot of people who are either self-proclaimed sex addicts or have been diagnosed, that it's not even as much about sometimes attraction, the orgasm, that it's this compulsion to engage in sexual acts that really is not necessarily goal-oriented? Does that make sense?
Yes, that is absolutely true. And sometimes what I have to do is I have to separate, is this also depression, or is this anxiety, or is this a sex addiction? Or is this just a compulsion? A lot of these sex addicts, it's not about the sex or the relationship at all. It just becomes this repetitive behavior, something that they have to do. There's no pleasure in it.
I think that's an important point. With so many addictions, you become addicted to something that used to bring you pleasure, and
it changes.
It changes, and I think this is a really important point. If you are someone who is worried you may be suffering, 3 to 6% of the population does, please seek help. There's no shame in that, and it is now good news. I mean, this is something that's officially recognized. Dr. Dow, appreciate your input.